Mohammed Irfan Ali to transform Guyana's transportation sector and bring
Good morning, everyone. Apologies for the late start, but nonetheless, we're kicking it off. Honorable Minister within the Ministry of Housing and Water, Susan Rodriguez, the CEO of Central Housing and Planning Authority, Sherwin Greaves, the Chairman of the Monrepo's La Reconnaissance NDC, Mr. Jagrup, Chairman of the Central Housing and Planning Authority Board, Dr. Emmanuel Cummins, Secretary to the Board, other management and staff of the Ministry of Housing, Central Housing and Planning Authority, and we also have reps from GWI here this morning, members of the media, and of course, you here today, our prospective allottees. Good morning again. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, now we feel we wake up. Now we feel alive. My name is Andre Ali. I'm the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Housing and Water, and I will be the chairperson of today's proceedings. But before we start, I'd just like to ask you all to stand with me for us to recite the National Pledge. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. I pledge myself to honor always the flag of Guyana and to be loyal to my country, to be obedient to the laws of Guyana, to love my fellow citizens, and to dedicate my energies towards the happiness and the prosperity of Guyana. Thank you very much. Please be seated. You're all here today because you all have a common goal, and that is to own your own home. And we are happy at the Ministry of Housing and Water to be here to provide you with the access to that, to be able to provide you house lots that you will develop and build your properties on and make that your home. As I look around here today, I can see I see all Guyanese people, many different persuasions. If you look around, they're all different ethnic persuasions, young and old, and I would also believe of many different religious backgrounds. And this is the way we operate at the Ministry of Housing and Water. We ensure that all of our communities are well integrated. We ensure that there is the right mix when developing these communities, because we want to achieve that goal of one Guyana. We must all respect each other, each other's ethnic backgrounds, each other's religion, and we should learn from each other's strengths and not focus on the negatives. All right? Like I said, we are very proud of the ministry to be able to provide you, to build the infrastructure, place the infrastructure in place for these housing schemes. The road networks, the drainage networks, the pure water distribution networks, the electrical networks, so you can come in and you can start building each of your individual homes and together create a community. Today, we have a few speakers that I have, and before I go on more, I'd like to call on the chair of the Monterey Polar Reconnaissance NDC, Mr. Jagrup, to give his welcoming remarks. Please help me welcome him.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Minister within the Ministry of Housing, Minister Susan Rodriguez, CEO, Mr. Sylvain Graves, and all of you who are present here, a pleasant good morning to every one of you. A pleasant good morning to each and every one of you here.
Morning, Chair.
I am Jagrup. I am the chairman elected for our NDC. The land that you will be allocated today is within our NDC. It's at Lusignan. But I would like to tell you something about the land. This land was previously cane fields, where in a cane field, you have one field, you will get about 10 drains and 2 wide and deep canals, so the pond will go in to fetch the cane out. Under this PPPC government, through the Ministry of Housing, through Minister Colin Crowell and Minister Susan, they are working very hard. They have made a lot of cane field lands available into housing, which is very costly. And I'm very happy that they are working. They have delivered land within our NDC alone at the Endrock, Martelsville, Good Hope. The whole of Good Hope was cane field from the line going down, Lusignan. So we have 2 very good ministers, hard-working ministers, through the government, through the PPC government, and we'll like to see every citizen in Guyana who deserves a house lot to get a house lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jagrup. I must mention today some of the specific areas. Mr. Jagrup touched on it, but the allocations are being done for Block E and F, Phase 2, Good Hope, Block G, 2 Friends, and Block H, Lusignan. Now, all of these areas are contiguous to Lusignan. So when you use like the road going to Lusignan prison, there's on one side there's 2 Friends, on the other side there's Lusignan. All right, so it's a contiguous block of development. I'd now like to call on the CEO of Central Housing and Planning Authority, Mr. Sylvain Graves, to give some remarks to you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, PS. Honorable Minister Susan Rodriguez, Chairman of the NDC, Mr. Jack Group, Chairman of the CHNPA Board, Dr. Cummins, Secretary to the Board, Rajesh, senior staff and members of the Ministry and Central Housing and Planning, members of the media, but more important to you the allottees, good morning and welcome. First of all, let me congratulate you on your upcoming allocation. What I can tell you, as each speaker before me would have mentioned the area where you're being allocated today, let me just tell you a little bit about those areas. When we will complete setting those areas up, what we'll have is approximately 800 house lots. But those house lots will also be accompanied by areas set aside. We have 5 areas set aside for place of worship. We have an area set aside as an entertainment center. We have 2 playgrounds set aside for the area. We have areas set aside for 12 government buildings, NIS health centers, nursery schools, etc. We also have areas set aside to do commercial and industrial activities so jobs can be created right in the area. Now, you may say, where is this area and how far back you're taking me? Let me just bring a picture to you. You will be having a road coming all the way from Ogle that goes all the way to Enmore. And that road passes directly through where you will be occupying. So you will not be at the back of anything. You will be in the front of that allocation and that new village that is coming. Now, added to that, in Enmore, within the end of this year and early next year, there'll be a massive commercial industrial area set aside there, similar to what you see there's one in Eccles right now. Similar to that in Eccles, there'll be one in Enmore, but much bigger than the one in Eccles. So that is also an opportunity for job creation, as well as persons who are interested in doing businesses in the commercial and industrial sector. So being on the East Coast right now is a great advantage to you because of the amount of things that are coming to the East Coast. So I want to congratulate you once again. I'm not going to tell you how lucky you are, but you are lucky that you're being given this allocation. Before I close, I want to mention one other thing. Chairman mentioned about cost. Let me just give you an idea. For us to establish one house lot in this area, it cost us $3.5 to $4 million. That is clearing the area, putting in the roads, the drains, the bridges, electricity and water. We are selling a house lot today from as low as $100,000. That alone can tell you how heavily subsidized this is. We are not here to make a profit. We are here to help the citizens of Guyana. And if it has to put us in deficit, that is fine. I will explain to Chairman later why we're in deficit, and I'm sure he'll understand. So, but at the end of the day, as Chairman said, it's for our citizens to be able to fulfill that dream of owning their own home. And that is our mandate at Central Housing, to ensure every Guyanese has the opportunity of owning their own homes. So once again, congratulations and good luck.
Sorry. Apologies, Minister. Thank you. Here, table forward. Thank you, CEO. Yes, indeed, to develop every house lot, it does cost us quite a lot. And this is the government's way of empowering people. Because if we depend on everyone to buy at a market value, think about that. After development costs of $3.5 million per lot, there would be some sort of margin on top of that as well, all right, for the regular man or woman. So the government understands that dynamics, and what we do is sell lots at a very subsidized rate to ensure that everyone has access to the basic need of housing, to ensure that you can afford whatever your salary is, to ensure that you can afford a house lot. And for then you can use that as a collateral, go into the banks, get access to a loan to build your home. And as I'm on that, we do have the banks and the financial and the insurance, the other financial institutions available here at this event as well. So please do make sure you capitalize on that. Go to them, access the information that they have available, see the different rates that the banks are offering. All right. Now, this morning, our feature address will be by the Honorable Minister, Susan Rodriguez. She doesn't need any introductions. Please help me to welcome her to the podium.
Thank you very much. Good morning, and allow me please to acknowledge our Permanent Secretary, Mr. Andre Ali, the CEO for Central Housing and Planning Authority, Mr. Sherwin Greaves, the new chairman of the Monrepole Reconnaissance NDC, Mr. Jagrup, who's joining us for the very first time, chairman, secretary, and members of the board of CHPA, all other staff and members of the Central Housing and Planning Authority, as well as the Ministry of Housing and Water, members of the media, beneficiaries. I'm very pleased to welcome you this morning to our second large dream realized land allocation exercise on the East Coast for this year, 2023. This morning, we will be allocating, or today, during the course of the day, we will be allocating approximately 800 house lots. And this will go predominantly to low and moderate income earners. You heard the CEO spoke about the location of these lands, where your house lots will be located, its proximity to other government buildings and services, as well as its proximity to the Enmore industrial site. Most of Guyana, many people who have been following the housing program is very familiar with our housing program, how we allocate land, how heavily subsidized it is. And you also have seen how these communities have evolved over the years. So there are some people who express concerns about the location and so on. But if you were to do an assessment of the schemes that we have developed in the past, especially during the period of the service of His Excellency when he was Minister of Housing and Water, you will see the evolution take place in those housing schemes. Of course, it takes quite some time, and it takes a lot of investment from the government to be able to move from cane field to a thriving housing scheme. And this involves several processes. But you have seen the commitment from the government to ensuring that these lands are developed, that they are developed as quickly as possible, that allottees are identified, and that we help people move through the process from allocation to home ownership. Because predominantly, that is what the government intends to achieve, home ownership. That is where our focus is. Of course, it's easy for us to tick a box and say that we have delivered our manifesto commitment of 50,000 house lots, but we want to go beyond that. We want to help Guyanese to achieve home ownership. We want you to be able to move into that home and provide a safe environment to raise your children, not just in a home, but in a community and in a neighborhood that you can be proud of. Our government is about empowering people. We do not believe in keeping people in bondage or have you paying rent for the rest of your life. And we can achieve empowerment through home ownership and land ownership. You would have heard the opposition talk about things like rent subsidy or subsidization of rent for low-income earners. That is not something that we believe can benefit people in the long run. We believe that that will keep people in poverty. And so the overall objective of our housing program is to empower people and to give you financial freedom. We know it's a struggle. It's a struggle for everyone to be able to purchase a property, whether it's at full market value or it's at a subsidized cost. And I congratulate you for being able to get to this point. But ultimately, we believe that in the end, it will serve you better than giving you a short-term benefit. This ownership certificate of title that you will receive will empower you to go to the bank, to acquire a loan, a mortgage, to build your home. Once you've paid that off, you have collateral if you want to purchase a second property or you want to take out a small loan to start a business. So the opportunities are endless. Just using this housing program alone, we can demonstrate how many other objectives we are able to achieve in the government. So it's not just about a housing program and giving out house lots. And so the opposition think an easy way to provide housing would be to subsidize rent. It's far larger than that. You have to look at the housing program more holistically and all of the benefits that are spin-offs from the housing program. Yes, you have the housing program. We have our target of 50,000 house lots to deliver, but we also have the infrastructure program that is as a consequence of the housing program. Last year, we expended $10.9 billion here on the East Coast. That's the East Coast alone. That's the budget for 2022, the expenditure on the East Coast. This year, approximately another $10.1 billion in infrastructure projects. That is the road network, the culverts, the bridges, the water distribution network, and the electrical network. So you can imagine the scale of investment. Then the job creation that is created from that expenditure, the stimulation of the economy, the increase in retail and wholesale of suppliers' businesses. So all of these are effects of the housing program, are added benefits to the economy just through the housing program. So it's not something to be looked at through one lens alone. This is the holistic objective of the housing program. We are able to achieve many things in the government through this housing program alone. And like I mentioned, just the job creation alone, creating thousands of jobs through the construction sector and allowing the construction sector to grow tremendously through investments in the housing program. And then we don't stop there. Like I said, we want to help you to acquire home ownership. So last year, we heard the announcement by the president of the Steel and Cement Subsidy. He made this announcement during the last Building Expo. And just a few days ago, we launched Building Expo 2023, something that we're very proud of, and we're looking forward very much to be able to putting on another successful Building Expo. And we invite all of you to attend the Expo to get a better understanding of our housing program, to take a look at some of the new technologies in construction, new materials in construction. And this should get you very excited because today you're leaving here as landowners. Many of you here will make your deposits today so you can feel secure in knowing that today I am the owner of a land and my next objective is to build my home. So you should get excited, come out, visit the expo, start researching different construction techniques and different materials. discuss it with your families. It's a very happy occasion for you. I see a lot of serious faces. I know you're here about serious business. You know, when people hear land involved, it's serious business. But it's a happy occasion. And so I want you to remember that. And I congratulate you for making it this far. I wish you and your families every success in the future. Please have an enjoyable day, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Minister Rodriguez. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Minister Kroll. Minister Kroll was very determined to make it to this event this morning. He just flew in from the interior. So without further ado, let me invite him to the podium to give his remarks. Please help me welcome him.
Thank you very much, Permanent Secretary Andriali, colleague Minister Suzanne Rodriguez, Chairman of the Board of Central Housing and Planning Authority, Dr. Emmanuel Cummins, and Secretary and other members of the CHPA Board, CEO of the CHPA and his entire staff, CEO Sharon Greaves, and his program directors, leaders, and staff of CHPA, the chairman, or chairman-elect, that is, Mr. Jagrup, from the Monrepola Reconnaissance NDC, the area, the NDC that eventually the area for which you, the beneficiaries, will fall under. Most importantly, I know Suzanne said you look a little bit serious, but most importantly, you, the anxious allottees, members of the media, good morning all. This morning I was considering to ask the President for a special favor to loan me sometimes. Well, he now has a new Bell helicopter, I see, so I think it will serve me well. It's a pleasure to join you here this morning, but I'm going to be a bit different. I'm aware how long you're waiting, and not to repeat, but simply to say that, yes, we're on another dream realized. But sometimes people ask, why do we do these activities? And it's important, as you come to go through the process, you've done the initial process, and many of you, you're waiting for years, and as I've just said, anxiously waiting one day. In addition to going into housing and keep following up, you're hoping one day you see a familiar phone number that is calling you to say that we're ready for you. But it is also important for you to understand where we're at and where we're going and what we're doing. And if you notice, the recent allocations for Region 4 have all been an East Coast Demerara allocation exercises. And the reason for that is that as we continue, eventually at some point in time too, Region 4 itself will reach to that saturation point, and we are there with East Bank. So I know some of you here, I'm aware, would have asked for an East Bank allocation, and we would have suggested to you that you will be offered East Coast. That is because we do not have, at this point in time, new lands on the East Bank of Demerara for allocation purpose. You see infrastructure works ongoing, yes, and those are all assigned already for beneficiaries like yourself or for the commercial activities. And the work continued, therefore, as we move towards our overall target, and our overall target of 50,000. The work continues for us to acquire new lands. On this year alone, our focus will have Regions 4, where we have 4, 3, 1, 6, and a portion in 5. 10 is already identified. Region 7 is already identified. So those will be our focus regions. But it's not an easy exercise because the resources that are now required to develop these lands are much more costly for developing a lot, per lot cost. And simply because we have to keep going inwards. And as we keep going inwards, it means we're going closer to the conservancy. As we keep going closer to conservancy, it means the land is not necessarily, the preparatory work required is much more than when we were out here. So that is why you will see us having increased costs. Suzanne said to you, $10 billion alone on East Coast. Right now, we have contracts for development of new areas. If you take out the 4-lane roads, we have contracts that are signed to at least about $36 billion for development of new infrastructure, new areas for persons like yourself who you today, after today, will be accessing. There are a couple of things I said I want to be brief, but there are a couple of things that are on my mind that I think we need to repeat. Over the last few months, I know you have not been hearing us in this part of the activity of housing. You've been seeing us on other activities. But we still continue. The role of our enforcement head has taken on even much more busy schedule because we continue to receive reports of unscrupulous persons. And unfortunately, people like yourselves continue to fall prey. Where we're lagging behind is that we need your assistance to prosecute some of these people. So they'll come to me or they'll come to somebody from the ministry and they'll say, I've been duped so many $100,000 because somebody promised a house lot. And now I see joining the bandwagon is a promise for a house. And I'll say to them, fine, provide the information, we'll do the investigation. We go as far to start doing the investigation. In order for us to make persons example, you have to give statements. That's how it works. But when it comes to that part of it, you turn back and say, no, I don't want no story. How can we help the system? And so we continue to receive a lot of that. In fact, last week we were dealing with a case where someone pretended to have some connection with housing. So the person is outside, they walk into a housing building and walk out back, and you, the person who is paying, believe somehow this person has connection on the inside. That is one. The second thing I want to respond to, and you'll continue, just look around yourselves here today. That is our allocation policy. We don't take into consideration, while we may do from time to time an analysis of an allocation when it's complete. Prior, we do not take into consideration how your name sounds or how you look when we are dealing with allocations. And that is why I said, look around here in this tent. And you're just a sample, right? There are others at the back. And you'll understand how it works. And so we continue to get accusations and persons with their own political alignment. We don't look at that. And please, when you're going today, don't ask the staff that you want to be next to somebody that you know, you want a corner lot, and all kind of things. We don't work like that. We do not allocate you your lot, so you don't know who your neighbor will be prior to leaving here today. And this is something I'll continue to explain throughout the process. The next focus that we'll be having is now that we have completed allocation. So by and large, we have about 24,000 allocations. For this year alone, while we commit 10,000 annually, already we are around the 4,000 mark for the calendar year of 2023. It means, therefore, we have at least 15,000 persons who are able to access their lands, or who are on the verge of being shown their lands. So the next phase of Central Housing and Planning Authority work or focus will be addressing occupancy. I'll give you an example. Our desks are overwhelmed with the requests for the houses construction, and simply because you know the cost at which we are building those houses, many of you yourselves can't do it at that rate. but there's only so much we can build. There are only so many contractors available. So there are many theories and many stories that you provide to us. You're about to be put out. You got some problem with your in-laws. You can't find place to rent. You name it under the sun, you'll see that explanation. You've completed the process, you're allocated, and then you drive through the area, you still see a fair bit of empty lands. I was driving through Cummins Lodge over to a couple of days ago, and that I see many of those persons are persons for all kind of reasons for their houses. And I still see a lot of persons who have not moved in as yet. And so we'll be addressing that in our next period of focus. Because at the end of the day, there are some real desperate persons out there who have gone through the process and are waiting and for some reason really need to move on. And it puts at a disadvantage you, who are in that category, for somebody who would have gone through the right process, so we can't really judge to say if it's critical or not. They've gone through like everybody else and applied, but certainly we got to be sincere to what we're doing. And so the process today will be much smoother and quicker. We will not be spending that long in this allocation process because we've found the niche to be able to move quickly, and we have only 2 areas that we've made available today for your allocation exercise, and that is why you can trust the process, how it's moving. There will be more allocation exercises for East Coast. As the lands become available, then so will we continue the work. And East Coast will be mirrored. I'm not sure if it's said already, but East Coast will be the mirror of what you see on the east bank of Demerara. So just like how you see additional access roads built and continue to be built on the east bank of Demerara, similarly will be the focus for East Coast. Starting, for example, the first road will be from the continuation from Aubrey Barker Road that cuts across our housing scheme and then goes all the way to Enmore Falls. There are some commercial hubs that will take place on the east coast of Demerara because we want to also look at employment opportunities. So as you start to think and shift your focus of where you're living, the Enmore Falls will be a commercial hub. You have the LBI vicinity will be another cluster for where one will be able to find employment. So owning your house is, while it's a personal achievement to everyone, everyone strives for that. Everyone strives to have their own space, have their nice fancy fence and showcase when they have their own house, but it is not always easily attainable. And for you, it may take years to build. We are, as a government, we are cognizant of the challenges that confront you when you want to build, and that is why you would have heard about and continue to see the introduction of the subsidy program that is for the steel and cement to initiate and to start your foundation process. But certainly if you have additional questions, all the staff for the various sections are here for members of the public who are listening, and so you can engage any one of them for what is required. And just like how we're expanding for the housing, similarly, because of the increased population, we are responding similarly for water, and so there are additional or new wells that will be drilled on the East Coast to cater for our housing expansion, as well as for some of you who south of the railway line who live along those stretches, sometimes your pressure is a bit low. We're cognizant of that, and so there are additional wells that will be drilled on the East Coast to take care of that. So finally, I want to echo the comment that was just made to invite all of you to our International Building Expo from August 24th to 27th at the Nagana National Stadium. It's worth it. You'll see a lot of innovative construction technologies. Sometimes some of the products that are being displayed, some of the persons who are displaying them, you will be able to meet new entrants into the market. And so it's not just for people who build, but it is for also potential homeowners, investors, and other stakeholders. And my final, I said final, so my final comment, because sometimes they say I always got two final. And so my final comment is reserved to the staff of Central Housing and Planning Authority, who continues to respond to the increasing challenges and increasing workload that every day that is entrusted upon us as we continue to work to deliver on our manifesto commitment and our President's commitment to the people of Guyana to see a better life for all of us under this beautiful country, under a one Guyana. Thank you all, and congratulations to all of you today, and have a God bless day.
Thank you very much, Minister Kroll. We move down to the time of the program that you've all been waiting for. And that's the commencement of the house lot distribution exercise, or allocation exercise. And I'd like to call on Ms. Gayatri Ramwad. She is the operations manager within the Central Housing and Planning Authority. And what we'll be doing is just a demonstration of the lottery system, how it's done, how you select your lot. And what I'd like to do is call on first the chair of the NDC to assist us with a lottery poll. So Chair, if you can please join us right to the front, right dead smack in the center. Ms. Ramwad would meet you there. And I'd like to call on Ms. Roshni Ramadar, who would be the first lucky allottee this morning. But she's from another bank. Ms. Ramadar, I see you walk with your with your daughter there. Maybe you can have her pick the number for you. Face the camera. All right, Ms. Ramadar, you're now the allottee of lot 753, block H, Lusignan. Please help me congratulate her. Thank you very much, Chair. I'd now like to call on the CEO of Central Housing, Mr. Sherwin Greaves, to help move this process along, and also call in on Ms. Anne Narain. I hear you, I see you. Followed by Trayon Hamilton and Alicia Hamilton. Congratulations, Ms. Narain. You're now the owner of lot 704, block H, Lusignan. Congrats. Mr. and Mrs. Trayon Hamilton. We have a military man. Notice a few more in the audience as well. Good morning to you. Thank you for your service. And thank you, CEO, and congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Hamilton. You're now the owner of 480 Block G, Two Friends. I'd now like to call on Minister Susan Rodriguez to help in the next couple of selections. And we're also calling Dioraj and Lucy Danraj. Deoraj and Lucy Danraj. Are you here? Followed by Wyatt Nestor. Congrats, Mr. Danraj. You're now the owner of 487 Block G, Two Friends, Phase 1. Is Wyatt Nestor, not Army man. Mr. Nestor, congratulations. You're now the owner of Lot 563, Block G, Two Friends. Thank you, and thank you so much, Minister Rodriguez. Now I'd like to call on Minister Kroll, and at the same time ask Mr. Gerald Gomes to join us at the front. Followed by Andika Prasad. Mr. Gomes, congratulations. You're now the owner of Lot 486, Block G, Two Friends. Oh. Miss Andika Prasad, congrats. You're now the owner of Lot 725, Block G, Two Friends. And that concludes, thank you, Minister Kroll. That concludes our demonstration of the process. As you can see, this is how it goes. No one gets to choose exactly where they want on the, within the scheme. You have to randomly select a number within that area. And that is how you are allocated. All right, so we now boil down to the end of the program. I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank you for being here with us, joining us on this path to development, and also to congratulate you all here today. And you should all give yourselves a big, resounding round of applause. Thank you very much. It was great being your chair this morning, and God bless. Have a good day. I'd like to ask Ms. Gayatri Ramwat to just give you a rundown, so to speak, of how the process would unfold